The Mars Argo, Poppy, and Titanic Sinclair lawsuit is finally over. Hi guys, I'm Edwin, and in today's video we're going to be going over the settlement agreement that both parties have reached, because it's not like anybody won or lost the lawsuit. They just reached a settlement that they both have to follow, otherwise it could be legal trouble. So we're going to be going over that, and afterwards we're going to be going over Poppy's statement and then Mars Argo's statement afterwards. The settlement starts out recapping the initial lawsuit that Mars filed on April 17th of last year against Poppy and Titanic Sinclair, alleging claims of copyright infringement, common law right of publicity, and violation of California's unfair business law, and an individual claim for domestic violence damages against Corey Mixter, better known by his stage name, Titanic Sinclair. It also includes that Mars Argo filed a restraining order against Titanic Sinclair. And I also made a video last year in which I went more into detail on Mars Argo's lawsuit and her allegations against Poppy and Titanic Sinclair, so if you haven't seen it or you want a recap, I'll be sure to include a link to the video in the description down below. And lastly, it states, to avoid the burden and expense of litigation and without admitting or acknowledging any liability, the settling parties wish to fully and finally resolve all disputes and matters between them that were raised or could have been raised in the federal action or the state action, and agree to the following terms set below. So what this means is that to avoid stress and money expenses that the lawsuit was costing both parties, they ended up settling and have both agreed to the following terms that I'm about to read out to you. So pay close attention, because a lot of people just assume that, well, since Brittany settled, that must mean that she lost, that she wasn't really willing to pursue action. But this is actually quite common in lawsuits. A lot of people just end up settling because they agree on certain terms. So let's begin. Settling parties acknowledge and agree that the execution of this agreement represents a settlement of disputed rights and claims, and that by entering into this agreement, neither party admits or acknowledges the existence of any liability or wrongdoing, all such liability or wrongdoing being specifically and expressly denied. So what this means is that neither party can legally say that the other one was guilty. Immediately following full execution of this agreement by the settling parties, Sheets shall file a request to dismiss the federal action and all parties thereto with prejudice pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 41. Sheets also agrees to dismiss and not pursue any further proceedings in the state action, each party to bear its own costs and attorney's fees. Mars Argo has to file a request to remove her claims against Poppy and Titanic, and both parties, Mars Argo and Poppy and Titanic, have to cover their own legal fees. Mixter, known professionally as Titanic Sinclair, hereby quitclaims and assigns to Sheets all of his right, title, and interest in and to the project known as Mars Argo, including but not limited to all musical registrations or copyrights in Mars Argo music and videos, whether released or unreleased, any trademarks in the name Mars Argo, any domains associated with Mars Argo, as well as any future revenues derived from the same, except that Mixter shall be entitled to retain any funds he received prior to September 7th, 2018, the date the parties reached the settlement in principle in this matter. So that statement basically says that Titanic has given up all the rights to Mars Argo, and anything Mars Argo related is officially now hers. However, he is entitled to any money earned from the Mars Argo project dating before September 7th. Alright, now hold on to your seats for this next part, because it gets oddly specific. Mutual non-harassment. Sheets on the one hand and the individual defendants on the other agree to not contact the other directly or indirectly in any way, including but not limited to personal encounters, telephone, mail, email, social media, internet, or other electronic means. If the settling parties need to communicate, all communications should be done through counsel for the settling parties as indicated in the notice section below. Sheets on the one hand and the individual defendants on the other further agree not to harass, strike, threaten, assault, hit, follow, stalk, destroy the property of, or surveil the other party, or to cause anyone else to do so. Of course, the segment says that neither party can do onto one another those actions, but those actions are exactly what Brittany accused Titanic of doing to her. So even though she didn't get like her way with the domestic violence lawsuit bit, this basically spells it out that I think she kind of did win that segment. I mean, now he can't legally be around her or contact her whatsoever. Mutual non-disparagement. Except as expressly set forth below in the attorney's statements, following the effective date of the agreement, and regardless of any dispute that may arise in the future, settling parties will not and will not cause their representatives, controlled entities, and agents to, and will not encourage their family members, friends, or any other person to use the name of any party or family member or any party in the making, publishing, or issuing any statement, written or otherwise, whether on or off record, including orally, in print, television, radio, social media, or the internet, that does or could reasonably be deemed to disparage, blame, criticize, denigrate, insult, damage, or injure the name, work, public image, reputation, goodwill, or business of any of the parties. Right, so that's a very specific way to say that either party is not allowed to talk any smack or encourage anybody to talk any smack, otherwise there could be more legal trouble. Mutual social media cleansing. Mars Argo and Titanic and Poppy will decline to comment publicly on each other by name, including but not limited to comments on social media, except as expressly set forth below in the attorney's statements, and will remove from any and all media, social media, the internet, or websites any direct reference or images of the other party and refrain from any subsequent posting of the same. Titanic agrees to remove any reference to Sheets or Mars Argo being a friend on his website, titanic-sinclair.com, or in any social media comment or posting subject to his control. Do you see what I mean by oddly specific? I mean, sure, it says that both Mars Argo and Poppy or Titanic cannot reference one another or say anything ill of each other, but Mars Argo never really did that. Like, she's the one accusing them of doing that. And then it goes on to say that Titanic can never even reference Mars Argo as a friend legally. Wow. Destruction of compromising photographs. Following execution of this agreement, Titanic agrees to immediately destroy any photographs in his possession, custody, or control of Sheets in an undressed, partially undressed, or otherwise compromising manner, including but not limited to those saved on any device or in any electronically stored information such as email or text message. Alright, I gotta say that this part was really weird for me to read out loud because I don't know, and this is just my interpretation. Anyone else is free to interpret it their own way, but it kind of just heavily implies to me, at least, that Titanic has like nude pictures of her or like at least somewhat undressed pictures of Mars Argo. And the fact that she included it in that settlement kind of says that she must have been afraid of what he could do with that, right? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, and that's just how it reads to me, and this is why I think it's important to go over the settlement, because of course, like, articles won't really go into detail. They just kind of pick up the statements and little bits and pieces that they want. And the last part of the agreement just goes over the release of each other's claims against one another, so I'm not sure what it would pertain to on Brittany's side, because everything that she kind of said about them was, as far as I know, just in the lawsuit that she already made, right? And as for Poppy, they released a statement straight after, and as far as I can tell, they removed it off their Twitter, but I did go over it in a video as well. But I did find it curious because in Poppy's original response statement, she had claimed that Brittany, Mars Argo, had been working with a guy called Joshua, and that was kind of random because it was never really confirmed by anything. So overall, my thoughts on the settlement, it kind of tells me that even though Mars Argo didn't win the lawsuit, it just kind of seems like she didn't want to pursue it all the way, right? But everything they agreed on seems to sort of favor in Mars Argo's way. I mean, she sued Titanic for domestic violence and it gave him a restraining order. I mean, that was obviously dismissed, but at the end of the day, he's legally no longer allowed to even say that they were ever friends or mention her name or say anything publicly or harass her, otherwise it could be more legal trouble. So it does sound like even though she didn't win that, she kind of did win it, and ultimately she has every right to Mars Argo officially now. So like it sounded like she also wanted just rights to who she was, right? Meanwhile, Poppy and Titanic have said in the past that Mars Argo was only doing the whole lawsuit for fame and money, but that doesn't really add up either because Mars Argo didn't release anything, and she still hasn't released anything, right? So I don't really get how it could be like an opportunistic like chance to just get her name back out there, or the money either, because they both have to pay for their own lawyers, right? And on top of that, Titanic was able to retain any funds that he wants since before September. Just some interesting things to keep in mind, but now on to Poppy's statement. So Poppy and Titanic's lawyer released their statement through the news and music website called NME, and they said, from the start, Poppy and Titanic have adamantly denied the accusations made by Brittany Sheets, aka Mars Argo, while Poppy and Titanic were eager to defend themselves in a public forum where all of the evidence could be considered by a fact finder, not just handpicked out of context snippets that Miss Sheets placed in her court filings. All parties have agreed to mutually walk away from any and all claims that either party might have asserted with no money exchanging hands. Poppy and Titanic are happy to have this ordeal behind them. Just another reminder that I am not a lawyer. I don't claim to have an expertise in this field. However, I am allowed to react, and my reaction is a little bit confused because they claim that they were very eager to say it in a public forum. So initially the reaction was on Twitter. They released several tweets in which one of them was claiming that Brittany was collaborating with a guy called Joshua, and that was never proven. So I'm very confused as to how they say that a regular fact finder could prove their claims, but I struggled. And once upon a time, I called myself the king of receipts. And adding on to that, their initial response was a complete red herring. They literally just said, hey, Brittany's working with this guy, she's just greedy, she is this and that. But they never actually addressed that her screenshots were out of context or anything like that. So instead of actually addressing what she was saying, they kind of just said, hey, she's bad, she's done this and that, blah, 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 she's greedy, she wants fame. I don't know, it just came off a little bit salty to me, but it doesn't matter. Details don't matter. They can never legally speak about it again. It's just all sealed away. What's done is done. Poppy fans love to call me biased as if it discredits anything of what I'm saying, and I never claim to be some news reporter or any unbiased person, you know? I'm not paid to be on anybody's corner. I simply read what I'm presented and I give my opinion. But with that being said, I just want to say that if we're gonna call out biases, let's talk about NME, because NME has actually worked with Poppy multiple times. They've done interviews with Poppy. Well, Edwin, they're a news publication. Why wouldn't they work with Poppy in the past? She's a musician. Well, that's not all. What I thought was curious was the fact that they broke the story. So it kind of tells me that Poppy's team kind of sent it to them. You know, I mean, they included Poppy's statement. And down below it says, Mars Argo is yet to respond to the settlement. It's officially, right now as I'm filming this, 6 p.m. Mars Argo released her statement 10 hours ago. Why haven't you updated? And what the heck is Mars Argo is yet to respond to the settlement? Mars Argo is yet? Is yet? I didn't know she was yet. And the last thing that leads me to believe that NME is biased towards Poppy is that when you click on the link of their settlement agreement, it looks really tacky. Like, the settlement agreement just looks like it was a ransom note. Why are there two different fonts throughout? And why is everything just so tacky and numbered all weird? The fact that I was easily able to obtain a copy of the settlement agreement without it looking all tacky like that, just like, I don't know, I don't understand, like, what? That just baffles my mind, the fact that it's so unprofessional looking. It's literally a ransom note, dude! Alright, so moving on to Mars Argo's lawyer's statement. It says, Brittany Sheets is pleased to have settled the litigation with Corey Mixter, aka Titanic Sinclair, and Moriah Pereira. All rights in Mars Argo have been assigned to Miss Sheets. Brittany is deeply grateful for the outpouring of support she has received throughout this painful process. She is happy with its resolution and is excited to move forward both professionally and personally. So Brittany's just basically glad that it's over because it was a painful process and that she is happy to have her individuality, her brand name back. And I don't know, I don't really have much to react. It seems a little bit more classy than Poppy's statement, but I don't know, that's just kind of how I feel. And I'm not always right, believe it or not. I'm kidding. But if you guys agree or disagree with anything that I said in this video, please do feel free to comment down below your thoughts on whatever it is. You know, I like to encourage critical thinking. But if you're not interested in my biased thoughts, here's your warning, because I'm wondering, has Poppy moved on from one target to the next? The pattern of attacks that Poppy and Titanic were called out for were always kind of references or kind of subtle, right? And it seems that Poppy may have moved on to her next target, being Grimes. If you guys remember the video that I did last month, I talked about how Grimes was regretful of working with Poppy and how she didn't want the song that they did together to come out, but Poppy leaked it anyway. And Poppy's response to that was calling Grimes a bully for not wanting the song to come out. Consequently, Poppy came out with a video called The Return of Charlotte, in which she shows her mannequin portraying a message of, you want beef? I'll show you beef.
Charlotte will give you beef.
2 videos later, Poppy is seen confronting Charlotte, and Charlotte says that she was busy because she had a new boyfriend, and Poppy says, I hear you're a new DJ.
What's it like being a DJ?
It is a very hard job, but my boyfriend is very supportive of my creativity. Deep down, I am an authentic artist, and being authentic is very important.
Now keep in mind, Poppy released these videos about a week after she had called Grimes a bully. If you're familiar with Grimes, like if you follow her on Twitter or you've seen literally a minute or two of any of her interviews, you will probably hear her talk about how she is really prideful of her music because she produces all of it, and she even used to edit all of her music videos as well. So that's why the coincidence is kind of strong there. Not to mention, Grimes recently started dating Elon Musk, and there's heavy implications that the boyfriend is heavily supporting Grimes. Last but not least, Poppy has announced that she's coming out with a graphic novel called Genesis. Now, if you're a fan of Grimes, that would probably ring a bell because it's one of Grimes' most popular songs, sitting at 54 million views on YouTube and 56 million plays on Spotify. Of course, Grimes doesn't own the word Genesis, and I'm sure Poppy was considering making her mannequin character Charlotte already be a DJ before she met up with Grimes. You know, these could all be just coincidences, but I'm just saying, it's a very heavy correlation once again, but I do hope that it's a coincidence. And if it's not a coincidence, then I hope that Poppy will quit while she's ahead, because don't you get tired of it? Give this video a thumbs up, guys, and thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys real soon with another brand new one, so if you're not subscribed, also make sure to do that. Cheers.